Hello guys, I am here with Brad Andres, designer for L5R. Brad, the game has released.
Finally.
It's happened.
I'm so excited.
So we had a lot of build up, we had a lot of talk about course that's coming out. Gen Con was a big deal, had a lot of celebration going on.
Mm-hmm.
Now the dust has settled a little bit. You had the first Gen Con tournament, had a month or so between that, a couple of months, and now we're seeing our first World Championship. And this is kind of the last, I think, or at least one of the last big events where the core set is the feature, and then we're about to move into the new cycle.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling? How are you guys feeling at the FFG and LCG departments about L5R?
Man, we're all just so excited. The game's launch has been phenomenal. The excitement from the player base, the community involvement, just the pure excitement has been mind-blowing. I'm just blown away every day by how much the player base is just responding to this game and loving it. I'm so happy. Any
surprises that have happened after getting the core set in people's hands, and feedback that you were not exactly expecting, or?
It's always interesting putting your baby out into the world and seeing what happens. And as far as surprises, it's been really exciting seeing how well some of the clans that I thought were only going to be doing okay. For example, the Crab, we predicted them only doing so-so, but the players have really found some great strategies and have surprised me with just how creative and inventive they are. And so it's on one end it's like, and the other end it's like, I'm so excited to see what the players come up with.
That's a fascinating thing, because you have a core set that is essentially trying to take 7 clans and make them as well balanced as they can be. Are there just limitations out of a single box, or even 3 of that box, that you don't have enough variables to work with to get every clan in the kind of perfect balance, and that you need more cards to do that? Or was the intent, did you guys really think that you had all of these clans kind of perfectly squared off against each other?
It's a really tough puzzle when you're working on a core set, because you only have so many cards. You have, we had to include 7 great clans into this thing, and each clan needs both a conflict deck and a dynasty deck. And that's a huge, huge number of cards. And so this, more than any other core set we've ever done, has felt the most cramped in terms of when we were designing it and trying to get it in. I think we've accomplished some amazing things with what we got in there, and I think we've been seeing a pretty balanced environment. Representatives from every clan here doing really well. Even clans that are showing up a little less, like Unicorn, we're having great success at the highest level of play. So I'm really just impressed. I can't even believe we did it sometimes on how well it turned out. But it was definitely a tight fit, and Nate and Eric did such a great job working all together on this thing. So.
Well, let's talk about Worlds then, shall we? Because this is a big competition, really, the big L5R thing happening. Are the clans, like you said, are they well represented? Is there a lot of clan loyalty going on? Any grand stories from Worlds that you'd like to share?
Well, we've definitely been seeing a lot of variety. We have big representation from Dragon, Scorpion, Crab, Lion, Crane, some Phoenix in there showing up on a couple of the days in force. Unicorn kind of staying a little bit under the radar, but they're definitely still there and they're doing well. We just had a great game going across the street where we had a Unicorn player and a Scorpion player up on the stream and had an intense match, very, very close.
And they were both, what, like 6-1, 7-1?
Going into the match. And then the Scorpion player was actually one of our Dragon Hatamotos coming out of Gen Con, switched to the Scorpion for Worlds this year. So a little bit of spy in the Dragon. So,
but is that player intending to go back to Dragon? Is this a single?
I don't know. He mentioned something
sabotage?
Potentially about maybe trying to pick a role for Scorpion that might not be advantageous. We'll see.
So we have some serious infiltration going on here.
This
is serious,
it's exciting stuff. And
engagement with the organized play.
Exactly. That's one of the amazing things about L5R is just these players are given the opportunity to go out there and mess with the story and be a part of it, and it's really exciting to see.
What about, I know that the old L5R community was very much interested in really making a display of the clan that they belong to, whether it's being in costume or bringing katanas and things. Are you seeing that kind of thing as well at Worlds?
Yes, I just walked past a dragon player that was in full samurai getup, playing and representing his clan. There was someone passing out arm sleeve tattoo sleeves to all the dragon players, a crab player passing out jade pieces to all the different crab players. There's a lot of pageantry. There's a guy wearing a lion hat, which is literally a lion on his head. It's been just so much excitement for this game.
And what really is at stake here at the World Championship? What are these people playing for?
So 2 big things. Obviously, honor and glory, and then 2, influencing the game. Now this again splits off into 2 different avenues. 1, they're going to be making those role selections, determining the future metagame for these clans. And then 2, and almost more excitingly, they're going to be choosing how these the crane and the lion progress in their ongoing conflict in the story. They're going to choose whether they're, honor or justice here.
Interesting. So you've got 6 packs in 6 weeks coming out to you. We've got the core set, the tournaments, those things, and now we're about to move into a new phase of the game where we've got the Imperial cycle is kind of on our doorstep. What do you think about the 6 pack, 6 weeks? Philosophy for L5R?
A lot of our core sets in the past have had a slowly evolving metagame, and we understand that because, as I was mentioned earlier, our core set was so tight. We really wanted to accelerate and get a exciting, different, and growing metagame as quickly as we could. And that's one of the big pushes behind the 6 packs in 6 weeks. We want to present the best face to those players and give them that variety that they're looking for as soon as we can.
Do you have any comments about people who might be concerned about the game not following kind of the expectation of those slower releases and are worried now that they're going to be left behind because they didn't have the budget for all of this at once, those kinds of things?
And I'd say that those players that are a little concerned about that, not every pack is going to be vital to building your deck up immediately. Obviously, players are going to want to eventually pick up all the packs for the options, but if you're focused on one clan, which many players are very, very focused on one clan, picking up a couple of the packs, augmenting their decks, trying them out, letting them grow is going to be available to them quickly, and I would encourage them to target a couple packs. We post all the cards that are in all the packs online. You can scan that QR code on the back, get instant understanding of what's out there. And so I wouldn't say they need to feel like they need to jump in and buy every single pack right away.
So why would we buy these packs? Tell me about the Imperial cycle,
right?
Man. What are we going to be seeing? What can we look forward to from this first 6 packs?
So one strategy I like to do when I'm designing a cycle is try and target a portion of the game and try and enhance it, make it more important, and make it more relevant to your overall board state when you're playing. And in the Imperial cycle, obviously we're focusing on the Imperial favor. So it's a very subtle mechanic in the core set. It provides a lot of background advantage to players in conflicts. And usually it's that just +1, but if you think about it, you're also denying your opponent +1 in that same type of conflict. Now, as we go into the Imperial cycle, you start to see cards, and we've previewed a couple of cards that make you give up the Imperial favor for more benefit in the short term, cards that have wildly different effects while you have the Imperial favor or don't have it. And so that factor of the game is going to become much more important as we move into the Imperial cycle.
That's really fascinating, because I think the most coming out of the core set, the one mechanic that felt not sure that this is really adding a whole lot to the game was the Imperial favor, where it's kind of hard to remember. The benefit seems somewhat minimal for the added mechanic in the game. And so now you're saying that rather than kind of leaving it in that space, you're going to make it a much bigger part of the overall mechanics.
Players are going to have to consider it way more, whether I want it. Do I hold back from this conflict and say, okay, I'm going to hold this glory back ready so that I can claim it? And then if my opponent sees me do that, do they go, oh man, I should leave this guy back? And now we're almost in a, how much do I push forward? How much do I keep back? and there's a new tension point that was less important in the past, but now will be much more important.
That actually makes me wonder, was the Imperial favor mechanic always meant to be more involved, but you just didn't have the space in the core set to have those cards that really play off of it well?
We really wanted it to be a more subtle mechanic in the core set. Obviously, space concerns are always there, but we do have a couple cards that key off of it in the core. But it was always kind of planned that we wanted to expand upon it in the first cycle. And that was definitely a conscious thought we as a design team thought about and decided that was the best place, especially when we can start to include cards with the Imperial trait and really make that matter. We start focusing, story-wise on, the Imperial structure and really giving players the first look into that. And, where better to start our story than in the Imperial capital.
Right. Well, past the Imperial cycle, I know you can't talk about specifics, but what is your vision? Kind of lay out the next couple of years for L5R. If everything goes according to plan, what should players look forward to with the next couple of years of this game?
So we, as a department, like to continually have our games change and shift. This means that some clans will rise and fall in the standings. You want to keep that variety going. We want to explore different avenues of the game. Eventually bring in some new interesting mechanics at some point that make the players think in ways they hadn't thought before. And then of course with the ongoing story, we're going to be having some insanely cool events happening, and then exactly the implications of those events, I don't even know yet, because it's up to the players to determine how they all play out. So I can see so much excitement, fun things, and just crazy happenings coming up. I'm so excited.
Would you say that there's a greater than 0% chance we might see some clans from the old game make it back into the new game?
We'll have to see. That's interesting question. Obviously, we've in the story seen hints of some of those other clans and references, so some of those clans are still definitely around, and they're a rich part of the setting, so they are definitely available to us.
Well, Brad, the last thing I'll ask you for the benefit of new players, which a lot of us, I think it's hard to really feel experienced yet in L5R. So what are some of the rules that you've noticed as people are playing through the core set and even at the Worlds tournament that are the most commonly misunderstood and that need the most clarification?
Well, we've had a couple questions this weekend, particularly about fate on rings and declaring conflicts. One thing that players will often miss when they're first learning the game is, so say I declare a conflict against you. Say I pick the air ring, it's got a fate on it. When I declare it, I get that fate. Now say I hit some sort of conflict where you can change the ring. If you were to change the ring to a ring that also has fate on it, that fate also goes to me.
Okay.
And it's just when a ring becomes the active ring, the attacking player gets the fate from it.
Always the attacking player. Okay.
Another thing to remember, especially since this differs slightly from some of our other games, is if we're in conflict against each other and you have a character that has 0 of the particular conflict type, let's say military, for example. If you have 0 military versus my 5, you still qualify as defending. That conflict is not undefended. You will not suffer an honor loss when that conflict finishes if you still have 0.
That makes sense, yeah. There's just like in Thrones, I think if you have 0 defending, it's considered unopposed.
Yes.
That's not the case.
Not in the case in L5R, because there's a difference between 0 and dash in L5R.
And then if you have 0 strength against no defenders on an attack, are you still considered to win?
You are not. You need to have some sort of strength. You need to exert some sort of force, politically or militarily, in order to win that conflict.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for clarifying that, Brad.
No
It's
problem.
been great. We've got more coming from L5R. You heard it from Brad Andres himself. It's an exciting time to be a part of things. Thanks for watching, guys. Until
Thank you,
next
guys.
time, keep playing.